That's a
We'll
good
just green
idea. Yeah.
screen it. You know, we actually probably could. We could theoretically have an old clip of you and then
Yeah.
put it behind you. Yeah.
It's not ideal, but gets the job done.
It would be a ton of effort for something kind of silly, but it would be kind of funny just to try it at some point.
All right, let's do this thing. Welcome, Spencer.
Hey, Teddy. Thanks for having me.
Hello. Yeah. We're back. It's Majora T Cast. I can't even get the name right. Majora T Cast revived. We're back from the dead. Well, I've been playing Castlevania lately. I've been channeling my inner spirits.
Sure.
And we're bringing back a beloved franchise, Majora T Cast, stronger than ever, with none other than Spencer from RPG Archive and the Button Mappers. Spencer, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm also playing Castlevania
Huh.
Symphony of the Night. Yeah.
Really? Gee, well, that makes two of us. We'll have to talk about that sometime. Maybe
We
archive
will.
it. So
That'll
cool.
be cool.
Hell yeah. What's
You know
going
what?
on?
One of the last big things we did on the Itch Network was a Castlevania. It was like when we were still doing it in person, we had JD stream Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and it got a shit ton of viewers.
Wow.
Like we were streaming to like 20 people, like consistently for like 3 hours. So, maybe could be money there.
Let's just tap in. See if we can get that market.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the market, what's up, viewer? You're the market, and we're selling you a subscription to these channels. Check out Spencer over on RPG Archive. He's hyperlinked in the title and the description. YouTube has made it easier than ever. We're going to make this process smooth. So you can just go on over and subscribe to RPG Archive. And while you're at it, subscribe to me if you haven't already.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Watching videos unsubscribed. Who does that?
Yeah, imagine.
Just
Imagine doing that.
The Beatles have said it better than anyone else. Imagine all the people.
Imagine all the people not subscribed but watching. I think that's how that video or that song went.
Don't let that be you. Well, gee, Spence, I like to open it up fun, I guess. I had a couple directions to go in. I think maybe I'll save the general thing for later, but I was listening back to our first Majora T Cast. This is actually the third one that you've been on. Maybe the second one was kind of just a joke one with you and Multimaster arguing with each other. I don't know. But there was something that you said that I wanted to share back to you in the first episode we did like 4 years ago, 3 years ago.
Okay.
It's probably a good thing. Maybe it's Foresight Spencer speaking. This is a direct quote. How easy would it be to give us, and you can stop me when you can fill in the rest,
Okay.
a box that has an emulator running on it, and you can download ROMs?
I said that?
Yeah, we were talking about like how maybe because there's the flow of the conversation was like, Nintendo's great, but somebody can go in and steal the market. That's me. And you're like, who? I'm like, I don't know, somebody that wants to put out classic games. And then your comment was, well, they should just come out with a box where you could just emulate games and download ROMs for a fee. And the funny thing is that in this day and age, that's now your favorite console, the Steam Deck. I want to call it Steam Box.
Didn't you say download ROMs for a did I say or I guess did you say that I said download ROMs for a fee?
Yeah, like you could pay a couple bucks and get a ROM. It's basically that, but you're just not paying like for the ROMs.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I think when I say something like that, I mean a way to pay for games so you can at least support people. Um, literally without paying, there's a million boxes that can download ROMs. Um, but the paying part is important because without that, you're not actually supporting people and creating games. You're just stealing. Which again, I'm not necessarily opposed to, or at least because I actively participate in downloading ROMs that I don't own the rights to. But yeah, I mean, if you could pay for them, that would be perfect. That would be ideal.
It just seems like since nobody's done it, the Steam Deck has been the best way to do it.
Oh God, it's incredible. It's like a big screen, like this big, and it's got like all the buttons you would need, and the battery life is decent. It's not incredible, but it's decent enough where you can go about your business playing like old ass games, and then just charge it later. It's incredible.
Did you ever buy into that Switch hype? Like, do you ever feel like you were in the camp that was ever like, oh, Switch is the best console?
A little bit. There's an element of the Switch that's really fucking cool. Um, I mean, honestly, the Steam Deck kind of overtakes it in every way, except that you can legally play Nintendo exclusive games. Now, technically, the Steam Deck can emulate the Switch, so you could illegally play all the Switch games. But I really don't. I wouldn't do that. Like if you're into the hobby of video games, you really need to support that hobby. And stealing is not supporting that hobby. So I have a strong rule of only pirating games where the console is dead, like where they won't make the game anymore. And I didn't always follow that rule. Back in like the 360 era, my God, I broke that rule all the time. I was also dirt poor. So that's probably a piece of that. But back then I did it, and honestly, I was miserable. I did not enjoy the games. I think that it actually took away from it and made me very pessimistic about it and very unhealthy. So I would strongly encourage people not to download games that they could actually buy on the original hardware. So personal choice.
Or if you do that, you should own it in some way. Like you should own both
Well, yeah,
versions. That's like another like.
That's,
I think it's
that's
fine.
the legal form. Yeah.
Like I'm playing Symphony of the Night on the Xbox, and you got this stupid windowed view, and it's like, okay, at least I bought it. But if I could experience it in a better way, at the same time as owning this one, I think I would.
Isn't that bizarre? I'm playing it on the PS5. So we're probably playing the same game, like the one with the other game too.
No, mine is the Xbox 360 port.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm playing one that has this one and then another one that I have no interest in playing.
Rondo.
But that's it. Yep. But it's like you said, it's windowed. It's like, why would you only use part of the screen? Just use the whole damn screen. Or I know it's a different ratio, but just spread it out more, like so it hits the bottom. I don't understand that.
And mine is stuck with this stupid overlay of freaking Alucard and Dracula on different sides of the screen, and it's like a pale white, and it's like, this does not complement the freaking gameplay. Just give me black bars, at least the option to turn it off. So,
yes. Yeah,
but
that's
that's
weird.
Symphony. We're here to talk a couple segments today. We're introducing a new segment into the Majora T Cast Revived, where we both come to the floor with something that we did a little bit of look-sees at, a little research, a little history lesson, a little presentation, and it's really open-ended. I gave Spencer the free reins to pick anything, gaming-related preferred, but if he wanted to talk about dumbbells, he could.
Oh, hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So, do you want to do the first ever Majora T Cast history lesson?
Wow, I get the honor of this?
I'm honored to give you the honor, Your Honor.
Well, I don't know how well researched mine will be. I'll just put that out there. it's more of a discussion. But I do have figures. I have facts and figures here, but it's really honestly more of a discussion. But I wanted to talk about Final Fantasy VII,
Hmm.
because it's always very curious to me that Final Fantasy VII is the big kahuna, the one that took RPGs out of Japan and made it like a worldwide phenomenon. And it's so I'm always curious like why this game? Because once people have played enough RPGs, and I don't want to say a lot of people don't like this game because I think it's always well regarded, but they always end up finding games that's like, oh, this is better than Final Fantasy VII. Like they'll find, I don't even want to say many games because it is a very good game, but I think Chrono Trigger is far superior to Final Fantasy VII. I think Final Fantasy IX is far superior to Final Fantasy VII. There's a lot of games that are better in the same time frame. I mean, you could even argue Final Fantasy VI is way better than Final Fantasy VII. A lot of people think that, and it came before with inferior hardware. So I always found it interesting that Seven was the one. So I looked it up, and I just wanted to get a taste of what the world was like and what was going on. And I learned, and this is based off the wiki, but I do have a Shmuplations interview that I'll be referencing as well. But Final Fantasy VII was one of the first video games produced at a blockbuster AAA scale. It was the most expensive video game ever developed up until then. It cost $45 million to develop and $100 million for marketing, which usually, from what I've seen, and this is actually from the movie industry, so it's maybe different, but in the movie industry, usually you take the budget of a movie and double it, and that would be adding marketing. So this actually is like tripling it for the marketing, which is interesting because I do remember it. And I apologize for my voice, by the way. I was at a Misfits concert last night,
Wow.
and so my voice is completely gone. It was AFI and the Misfits, so cool show. Um, but anyway, so if I my voice breaks like a 13-year-old, maybe I'm just transforming myself back into when Final Fantasy VII came out. So, uh, yeah. It's super expensive marketing. I remember it being all over the video game magazines and stuff. I remember just pictures of them. So it does make sense that it was so expensive to market. But if you adjust it for inflation, and I don't know when this exactly was written, so because we just had a pretty big inflation boom. But this says it's the equivalent of $245 million adjusted for inflation. So pretty expensive. I know like now it's not as big. Like Grand Theft Auto 5, I think was like 500 million. Um, Red Dead, I'm sure. I think even like Star Wars, The Old Republic of all things, cost like $1 billion. So it's might not be as crazy now, but certainly back then when games were considered like toys, this was kind of a big deal.
Well, even for Star Wars, they at least had the assets from LucasArts or the films to pull from. What was Square Enix pulling from?
True, true. And fascinatingly, from the Shmuplations interview I read, they only had a year to make this game, like literally from the ground up, which is kind of crazy. Um, but you can kind of see it once you've played the game, and we played it for the button mappers. There's elements of the game that feel very rushed and like cobbled together. 'Cause like I remember Midgar specifically was like so well thought out and like an incredible like Midgar is the most memorable part of Final Fantasy VII. And to me, it's like there's Midgar and then there's post Midgar, and all that stuff is kind of like it's still entertaining, but it's not nearly as memorable as the first part. And I think Midgar is where they had all their eggs, and they're like, oh shoot, we got to finish this game. So then they rushed and did all that. Uh, but all right, let's see. It came out in 1996, and it sold. It actually had pre-orders, believe it or not. Actually, it came out in 97. I'm sorry, early 97. The game had 1.1 million pre-orders about 10 days before release, which I didn't even know they had pre-orders back then. I thought pre-orders were like a Gen, number gen stuff. I don't know them. Anyway, I thought they came later than that, but I guess they were there. Maybe it was a Japanese thing only. I don't know. But they had 1.1 million pre-orders, increasing to 1.83 million pre-sales shortly before release. The game sold on the first day of release in Japan. It sold 1.75 million copies. In 2 days, it sold over 2 million. Within 3 days of release, 2.3 million. That's in Japan. So that's pretty crazy. And then by April, it sold nearly, and it released in January. By April, it sold nearly 3 million units, and then more than 3 million by July. Now, in North America, it sold more than 330,000 copies on its debut, which was higher than any video game.
In America.
The game is in America.
Gotcha.
The game it surpassed, by the way.
Don't tell me.
Star Fox 64.
Wow, you told me.
At 300,000. Oh, you're saying? Oh, I thought you said tell me.
That's all right.
I was like, okay.
I would have got it wrong. I would have said like Paper Mario or something.
You would have said Paper Mario?
No, not really. I would have said Chrono Trigger, but
really, Chrono Trigger didn't sell that well. I don't think.
I just thought you were gonna do like a comparable game that like we've talked about or something. But.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it was more than any game, which is kind of crazy. Went on to sell more than 1.5 million copies during its first week of release. It helped the PlayStation break a long spell of Nintendo 64 dominance in North America. Topped the monthly sales chart, entered the top 3 on the video game rental chart. Let's see, I want to get to the worldwide. By 1998, it sold more than 6 million copies. And by 2007, the PlayStation version of the game had sold more than 10 million copies. Or about 10 million copies, actually. This game is insane. Because remember, too, I mean, nowadays you can break that, but it's important to remember, too, that at the time, gaming was not where it is now, where it's like a household thing. It was way more of like a market, like a niche market.
Well, even just the hype of lining up overnight, like that doesn't really exist to the same extent. You don't really see like physical games like they're that craze. Like I understand why you thought there weren't pre-orders, because I think I've seen like classic footage of like Super Mario Galaxy releasing and people lining up out the doors, and there being like lines in shopping malls. And you got to imagine 1.75 million sales, maybe like, let's say that's 1.5 million people minimum lined up all across Japan, this small island.
Yeah.
What an experience.
It's got to be mind blowing. I mean, and especially in Japan, it's like they have such a a JRPG culture there, especially back then. It was like Dragon Quest, Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy are the big ones, but they had all the Atlas games that I'm sure were the SMT shit, like stuff like we wouldn't even get. So they were, and even to them, this was a big deal. So
this seems bigger than any Dragon Quest, even in Japan.
We could look up the sales figures, but let's see. I'm trying to think about what they were. What would be like? Okay, so Dragon Quest 6.
That's a bad example. I feel like.
That would have been the closest date-wise.
Date-wise, yeah. But sales-wise, this was like 1.
1? You would compare it to 1?
Because what's the trajectory? I feel like 1 was like the biggest. I know it was like a slump or something. Like Dragon Quest 3 or 4, it like started to drop down. And then 5, it picked back up a little bit. But it was like the total sales were around 3 million. That's globally. As far as a cultural phenomenon goes, in Japan, a Japanese cultural phenomenon, I think 1 is probably the biggest phenomenon in the Dragon Quest series up to that point.
Didn't 1 not sell as great?
I don't know. We could look up VG charts if you want. You could do that.
Man, this thing's
yeah.
only giving me the DS one. I want the SNES one. Is that real? Anyway, whatever. But yeah, it's just crazy how big this one was. And clearly they spent a lot of money marketing it. So it almost makes me wonder too if they learned from this that you need to market these like you would a movie, like you would like a Hollywood blockbuster.
I think you were right about the numbers, by the way. I guess 3 was the biggest phenomenon sales wise. 1 was actually the worst of the first 6. But they're all like 2 to 3 million sellers. Dragon Quest 3 at 3.9 million.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my thing too is also like you started with why? Like is this game that much better than games at the time? It's frequently hailed as kind of like that masterpiece, and the same calibers as like the Ocarina of Time or the Symphony of the Night, kind of the game changer. And, I was actually thinking about this game earlier today, playing Symphony of the Night. I won't say why, but I guess, I'll save that. But on the same scale of like, being groundbreaking. What's the most groundbreaking part of Final Fantasy VII? Is it the new setting, the dystopian setting applied to a traditional RPG? Because, SMT and Earthbound both play with that formula too. So that can't only be it. Maybe it went into marketing. You said double the amount, 10 or $100 million spent.
Yeah.
Was that it?
Yeah, 100 million.
100 million on marketing. So probably a lot of advertisements. Maybe it's like it was the big PlayStation seller. So maybe it was boasting things that weren't really demonstrated. Maybe, what's interesting? Since so much was put in marketing, it makes you wonder if more money was put into certain PlayStation 1 games even up to that point, and they actually look and perform better than Final Fantasy VII. Maybe there are games that had more than $50 million invested in the game, but just didn't quite grab the consumers to the same extent.
Yeah. Well, one thing I think would contribute to it, and this is off the Shmuplations interview, they were talking to Sakaguchi about it, and they were talking about choosing the hardware for Final Fantasy VII. And he said it was starting to become clear to us what the memory capacity for the different next-gen consoles would be. Our games were going to need a huge amount of memory. The Final Fantasy VI CG demo we made for the SIGGRAPH exhibition took 20 megs all by itself. So they made like a demo of what it could look like in 3D. We thought that demo had a lot of visual impacts. There wasn't really much question about which hardware we were going to use. So they decided they have to go with CD-ROM, not just because it could hold a lot of memory, but because of the price. You could buy the games off CD-ROM for 5,000 to 6,000 yen. We tried to have the same pricing for games like Bahamut Lagoon, Gun Hazard, and other late Super Famicom games. But using cartridge ROM meant those games had to be sold for over 10,000 yen. So they were the cost to make them must have just been astronomical.
$100 games.
Yeah, and I remember that. I remember seeing that in like old magazines for Super Nintendo games. Even in America, they were constantly. That's why, like, when people are like freaking out that games are going up to $70, one, they should have been that years ago because of inflation. So it's a miracle that they hadn't, but it's probably because of DLC that they were able to keep the price down. But games back in the Super Nintendo era were clear over $60. Like there was, I think Chrono Trigger was probably like $80, $90 in places. It's insane that they haven't gone up to
Majora's
like
Mask was too. I think you needed the expansion drive in your N64 as well. So if you didn't have that, you couldn't really save your progress.
Yeah, that's super true. There were a number of games. I remember Perfect Dark being like that. Yeah, so this has been going on for forever. So it's interesting to see them actually trying to find ways to keep the cost down. They're trying to release these.
It's another multi-discer, though. It's the funny, tragedy of the PS1 RPGs, like the Chrono Cross Disc 2 being kind of a joke. And then, like, the Final Fantasy VII, the rest of the discs, Midgar is what people remember. And I think it calls attention to people's attention span in RPGs, especially in the West, since we're the ones that don't stop talking about freaking Final Fantasy VII. A lot of people probably didn't play past Midgar.
I didn't for the longest time.
I did. I played past Midgar, and then I was like, "What the hell is this?" And then I put
Right,
it down,
exactly.
and then
Like I
played
got past Midgar, and it's like, oh, it's like a generic Final Fantasy game, and then I put it down. And there's great stuff to be had, but it is seem a little jarring. I agree. He was hoping to have Final Fantasy VII be a 2-disc game at the price of 5,800 yen. Clear, it's 3 discs, I believe, the original, wasn't it? Final Fantasy
If I
VII.
have it. I have all the other ones on PS1. I didn't really buy it.
It's in the garage. It's not worth digging out. Maybe it's 2 discs. I don't remember, but I remember it's certainly more than 1 disc. So yeah, I think one of the big selling points of it, and one of the reasons it caught on, was the graphics. They showed probably, and this might seem scummy now, and it kind of is scummy. I bet you, and I wasn't alive, or I was alive, but I wasn't like really aware at the time. But I think they probably showed a lot of cutscene footage when they were marketing this game, and a lot less actual gameplay footage. Well, they probably showed a lot of combat footage because the combat looks nice.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see those like close-ups of the characters and they look so like nowadays, people always reference how goofy they look.
Roblox.
And they look kind of like little cartoon characters. And I admit that they do look kind of goofy, but I'm of the age where I feel the charm of it. So to me, it doesn't look bad. I don't look at it and think how goofy it looks. But I could see people that didn't grow up with it being like, wow, that looks really stupid. And it is kind of fascinating to think that Final Fantasy VII, like they look like you said, Roblox. They look really goofy. And literally, Final Fantasy X came out like 3 years later, 4 years later, and looks like comparatively like completely realistic. And granted, it's a console generation up, but it really is just a stark reminder of just how fast technology can move. And that at one point, Final Fantasy VII completely revolutionized everything in America. And then 4 years later, it looks basically, comparatively photorealistic, and people are like, another Final Fantasy entry.
Do you feel like not Tifa's, what the hell is her name? The flower girl?
Oh, well, okay. It's either Aerith or Eris. I can never remember what the correct one is, if there is a correct one. But it's one of those.
It's one of them. Do you think Flower Girl's death had a bearing on popularity?
No, I doubt it.
Okay. I feel like that's one of those moments that people don't shut up about. It's like just everybody knows it. You can't even have it spoiled because you know it.
Yeah, well, I think it's a cool moment. It's great that it's there, and it's a popular thing to look at. But it's a moment in the. I don't. If you're asking like if it's one of the reasons people rate it highly, maybe. Is it one of the reasons it was sold a lot? No,
Yeah.
I'm sure it had nothing to do with that. But maybe it's why they rate it highly. Maybe that was their first introduction of like true tragedy in a video game. Because I always think about this too, and it's almost like terrifying to think about. But before Final Fantasy VII, all gamers were bro gamers in America. It was like why, like there aren't that many people that are playing the RPGs, so we're basically all essentially the people that would be playing Call of Duty. Granted, Call of Duty wasn't out, but those are the kind of games you would play. And then Final Fantasy VII came out, and now all of a sudden everybody there's a group of people that are like, holy shit, I think I like this. I didn't even know that I like this. So it's like when some bro dude is like talking to you about what he saw in Game of Thrones, right? They're like, oh, it was sick. It was like a thing. Well, but it's the same thing with Aerith dying. It's like that was their first thing where they're like, oh, games can actually be emotional, and I don't really know how to handle it yet. But a portion of them will then make that their thing, and then now it's just another. Like, there's millions of games that have that in it, but this was the one that they saw first.
Right. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting point in time. Thanks for bringing attention to it.
Yeah, I think about this game a lot, and I really do like playing it. I think the materia system is fantastic. there's a lot of good things to be said about this game. It's not my favorite, but it is a really cool game, and the remakes are really good too. Just throwing it out there.
We've now played 2 Final Fantasies with Alex.
That's true.
We haven't archived either.
That's true.
Something.
The first one, I don't think the channel was up yet. The 7 one.
Oh yeah.
And then 1, I don't have word that he's finished it yet. So.
Oh, he's right there. Just let him on. Let him finish at boss 4. Call it an archive. Anyways, thanks for the Majora T sermon. Appreciate it. You did it. You rocked it. The first one ever.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Mine's a little bit shorter, but we're going to run with it. I think it's still an interesting topic. So I remember, Spencer, you saying that the 3DS has enough RPGs between it and the DS that could last you a lifetime. So I wanted to do a little bit of digging and see if that's really the case, specifically with Nintendo DS RPGs.
Oh, okay.
So I looked up the Nintendo DS library on Wikipedia. I did not go through every entry, but I just wanted kind of a bearing to see how many games are there. And then I did some quick Google searches of all Nintendo DS RPGs. They didn't give me very fruitful results, so I kind of had to work in between. There are a total of about 3,500 titles on the Nintendo DS across all regions. And when you go to a couple websites, they have approximately 115 unique RPGs listed. So the one that I'm going to use is Nintendo Life. They are missing a couple Etrian Odysseys. How dare they? But I do think that it's very interesting to see only 115 that are categorized as RPGs. What did you think that number would be, even if that is or isn't accurate?
That's about right. DS got a lot of shovelware. They like having that to get casual people to pay like $5 to get an experience. So 100 you said 115?
About, give or take.
Yeah. That sounds about right. I am curious how many of those I would consider an RPG or at least a playable RPG. But that's interesting. I'd probably end up narrowing that down to probably, I mean, that's probably correct. But I would probably narrow it down to like playable wise to be like 60.
When you say playable, what do you mean?
Wow, like is one of those Dragon Quest
Rocket Slime?
Tactics. Dragon Quest Tactics. That
No.
one like yeah.
Not the DSiWare.
Oh, so this doesn't count any DSiWare?
No, and in fact, when I was going through this list, I mean, it's pretty much what you would cover as RPGs, your Pokemons,
Okay.
your Rune Factories, your SMTs. Although they did put Zelda Phantom Hourglass in there. But I guess we've argued Zelda is an RPG, so, there's that. But
Okay.
I didn't question the majority of these.
Majority of them. Okay. Okay.
And I will
that's,
say...
that's surprisingly large actually then.
Yeah.
That's kinda cool.
Yeah, there is quite a lot of RPGs for you to, so the DS has quite a few. I picked 3 that I thought would interest you. I know that you're always kind of thinking about like, well, what's the next kind of like RPG I haven't tried that I might like to, that might be cool. And I don't know if these are your cup of tea, but I thought that they'd be interesting regardless. So I'm going to recommend 3 obscure Nintendo DS RPGs. Maybe obscure is not even the right word, but maybe just lesser talked about ones.
And these are released in America.
Yes, all of these have American releases from what I am seeing.
All right, I'll get my ROM site ready.
Yeah, cool. And you can even tell me if I'm wrong. No, this one, it tells you if it's broken down. But the first one I'm going to recommend is actually a Sega published Nintendo DS RPG, so don't go getting your ROM just yet. But so you might be interested regardless. It was published in Japan 2008 and in America in 2010. It's called Sands of Destruction. I'll read you a couple highlights here. You let me know what you think. It's an epic RPG created by the all-star Japanese developers at Image Epoch. And then in the highlights, the storyline is written by Masato Kato from Chrono Trigger.
Ooh, okay.
A little description here. In Sands of Destruction, a race of powerful beast men known as the Ferals rule over the human population with tyranny and prejudice. A group of warriors, the World Annihilation Front, believe their only option for ending the corruption of the Ferals is to end the world as they know it. The intense game puts gamers in control of an intriguing cast of characters who unknowingly hold the key to global destruction. Gamers will explore a fantastic world, traveling across oceans of sand, battling colossal enemy monsters, and unraveling the mystery of the creation of the world. And then a couple key features. The colossal bosses span both screens on the DS, so I'm getting kind of Bowser's Inside Story vibes with that.
Okay.
It's an atmospheric fantasy world where you have to destroy the world to save the future. Rallying cries. Characters can shout unique quips or commands to enhance abilities and boost attributes. There's unique customization with a unique points system, basically an RPG. And then there are over 300 high-quality cutscenes and event movies to illustrate the adventure.
Who published this? Sega. You said Sega.
Sega, yeah.
And then it's developed by Image Epic.
Yes.
Okay.
Has an average game rating of 8.6 by users and 8 out of 10 from Nintendo Life.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. How does
Sounds
that
right
sound?
up my alley.
ROMable?
I'd play that. Yeah, I'd play that. Is there how long to beat on that?
I don't have it up, so sadly, no. But I can read you a
It's
couple
called Sands of
comments here.
Destruction.
Sands of Destruction.
Okay, let's hear the 23 hours. Yeah,
Okay.
that's perfect. I'd play that.
Nice. I can while we're at it, I can have you on how long to beat duty.
Okay.
The next game that I want to recommend. Go ahead.
Didn't you say you're gonna read some comments?
They're not worth reading. They're kind of just people saying, "I want this" or "Review, please."
Well, this guy says infinite times better than overrated crap like Earthbound. Uh-oh.
Well, if it's better than your beloved Earthbound, Spencer,
It must be
we have to
fucking
know.
great. Yeah, I'll play that. Damn.
Better than Earthbound. Wow.
Okay.
Thank you.
Probably has a better inventory system, I'm sure.
The next game I want to recommend is one you might be feeling nostalgic about. Why? Because it's called Nostalgia. Released in Japan in 2008. I guess that's a big year for Japanese RPGs. And in America in 2009. This is not your conventional turn-based RPG. It's on the DS, if anything. The review says it's one of the most unique and enjoyable DS RPGs to date. A quote, a brand new classic RPG that harkens back to the days of old-fashioned Japanese RPGs. Set in an alternate reality version of 19th century Earth. Nostalgia casts you as Eddie, a headstrong Londoner, a guy from London, who amasses a group of memorable companions to traverse the world in his steampunk-inspired Zeppelin. So off the bat, this is very different from your typical fantasy setting. As you navigate the open skies, you'll explore mysterious foreign locales, slay all manner of fantastical enemies, complete a variety of thrilling quests, and ultimately save the world from unfathomable evil. I guess the idea of sky exploration is not new. You do that in Dragon Quest, Final Fantasy, Skies of Arcadia. But the idea of doing it in a Zeppelin and going to different kind of location, like steampunk inspired locations, is pretty interesting. It was developed by Matrix Software. A couple of titles they've worked on are Dragon Quest V for the PS2 and Final Fantasies 3 through 4 on the DS. And then also in association with Red Entertainment. They've done Gungrave, Bonk, and Thousand Arms. And it was produced by a guy from Fatal Frame. And those are some of the other accolades. There's a couple other ones. I don't really feel like going through all of them. Highlights: ambitious, fully 3D polygonal graphical engine with dramatic sweeping camera angles and impressive vistas rarely seen in a DS title. Listen, if we're talking up the reputation of the DS to produce 3D polygons, I don't know. I hope it's great. You're not going to like this one. Cohesive anime-inspired art direction, effectively capturing the game's turn-of-the-century charm. I don't know what that means, but it could be good.
I'm seeing pictures of it now. It's actually pretty beautiful.
Nice.
It looks good.
Travel to incredibly unique, non-traditional RPG locales via airship, including London, New York, Cairo, Africa, and Russia. It's nice to see a more earthbound RPG. You know what I mean? 2 distinct combat engines, a brisk turn-based close quarters melee, and then another large-scale airship battles. Yes. So there's some element of strategic mastery that they mention. Plenty of user-defined customization. You get to trick out your airship with various weapons, armor, and special skills. And you also get a branching tree for character skills.
It's I like trees.
Gotta love trees. Yggdrasil, baby. Variety of diverse, engaging dungeons with brain-bending puzzles and tricky Indiana Jones-style traps. There's a new Indiana Jones out. So
it's timely.
There's a market for it. And then optional quest system. Well, those are some of the highlights.
You know, I played Final Fantasy 3 and 4 on the DS. I didn't know it was them. That is, those were good. Those were really good. So that's a good start. Yeah, it looks pretty good. It's about 25 hours. Graphics look nice. Anime inspired. That's fine. I'm pretty used to it.
That could mean multiple things. I mean, Dragon Quest is anime inspired to some extent.
Right. Yeah, so it's not. I'm looking at it. I see where it's going. That's fine. Looks good.
Nice. Average ratings 7.6 from users, and they Nintendo Life give it a 9.
No reviews on here comparing it to Earthbound, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, we want games that surpass Earthbound, you know?
Yeah. That's the only thing I want. If I ever see a game now, I only want to see the review where it compares it to Earthbound in every way.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's a bit of a comparison, I guess. It's a really great game, a bit on the easy side, though.
Take it.
Yeah, that's the best we
it's
got.
Less grinding, usually.
Yeah.
The only games that I've noticed are difficult that aren't grind related have been SMT. Most other RPGs, it just means you have to grind more.
Mm-hmm.
But like SMT3, you could grind for hours, but they'll still kill you if you don't understand the fight. So.
Yeah, I like grinding, like feeling like my grinding is going somewhere, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I'm also cool with a game that doesn't like need you to grind to keep going. I find, and we're doing Dragon Quest VII right now, the pacing makes me... it ticks me off brutal. A little bit sometimes, yeah.
Well, that's why I always tell people Chrono Trigger, to me, is the perfect game. You literally never grind. It's paced so well that you literally just go from one section to the next and don't even think about grinding. You could if you want, but it's there's absolutely no reason to. Most RPGs aren't paced that well. Most of them are paced, and like they don't have to. That's the thing about RPGs that makes them so cool is they don't have to be paced that well. Like part of the fun of a lot of RPGs is the fact that they're not like they have spikes in difficulty, so you have to grind a little bit, and therefore you learn your character more and you become closer to it. But there's nothing wrong with a game that doesn't have that. It's just like the experience of the game. So, there's good and bad in both, but there's nothing wrong with a game that's well paced.
Yeah, I'll definitely take well paced. That's what I ask when I get my steaks. I want it well paced. You're cooking. No, one
I said,
other
please leave.
game that you may pace yourself with because you'll never finish it, but it's definitely worth playing. This one's less on the obscure side, but I have some experience with it, and I think I forget to consider it an RPG sometimes because it's kind of a hybrid. It's Puzzle Quest. So Puzzle Quest, I think there's no Japanese flag next to it on this website. So it was a North American release in 2007, and then this is the European flag. What does that mean? EU flag. Came out in 2008. So Puzzle Quest is from the Warlords series, and it is a match 3, but it involves you with some kinds, like there's a lot of elements of RPGs. I'll read a couple points first, and I'll come back to saying anything about it. It's a genre bending title that ups the ante on traditional puzzle games by incorporating strategy, role-playing elements, and a persistent storyline. And I'll just go into key features with this one. It has strategy and role-playing elements, offering a twist on classic puzzle gameplay, a head-to-head gameplay mechanism. I think it's like a versus style thing. Turn-based gameplay, where you have to think and strategize against opponents. I think like you take turns going through your match 3s.
Okay.
Game difficulty and progression are related to outsmarting your enemies as opposed to difficulty increasing solely through level progression. Create and build a hero. Choose from 2 male and 2 female characters, a druid, a knight, a warrior, and a wizard. Build your own empire as you capture cities, build castles, and gain a party of companions that will aid you in battle. 3 distinct gameplay modes offer replayability: single player, instant action, multiplayer. That doesn't really matter. At every turn, you will acquire helpful companions, collect or cast powerful magic spells, gather informational rumors, and obtain items like weapons, armor, and money to advance your hero. And designed specifically for handheld gaming systems, Puzzle Quest can be enjoyed in long or short doses. And they don't really have too many specifics about how the RPG systems work, but I've always kind of remembered it for that reason. This is a game that you can actually get on just about every platform. It's actually free on the modern consoles, and there are multiple iterations. So even if you just want to test it out, that's a fun way. And listen, this is like an age-old DS game. I think they're really cheap too. But I know I have this like compilation cartridge that has it. It's the 208 in 1, and I think it's on there. But anyways, yeah, I remember getting Puzzle Quest one time for like the Wii, and I just got so into it, like I didn't want to stop.
Really?
Yeah,
You liked it a lot.
yeah, it was really good.
I'm down. I'm down. I like puzzle games. They're not my favorite, but I like them. And if there was a creative way to combine it with an RPG, that'd be freaking cool.
Yeah, I mean, well, isn't the like Pokemon puzzle one kind of like that? I don't know.
I would
how
never
much.
play that, so I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I think this might be. I don't know if you'd say it's better, because subjectively you could argue either way. But I think it's a really good addition to your DS, and one that like you could really just go back to and play at any time. I think like just the mind game of it keeps it engaging, and it's really accessible.
Okay. Yeah, I'll look out for that for sure. Looks fun. I keep pulling it up, and How Long to Beat only has it for the PSP, but I'm sure it means both versions.
What do they say?
Um, 35 hours to beat. Oh, here's the DS stuff. Okay. 39 hours for the DS one. That's weird. And then no reviews. Oh no, here's some reviews. Nothing about Earthbound though.
Nah, shame. So based on that
You know,
system, I think that you'd say Sands of Darkness is the one that you're most interested in.
uh, no, all of them. I don't have one over the other. They all kind of offer a slightly different experience. This one, Puzzle Quest, a drastically different one, but curiosity wise, I mean, it's because like I already know what the best RPGs are, so it's not like I'm like, is this gonna be better than Chrono Trigger or is this gonna be better than Dragon Quest 4 or whatever? No, it's not. But I mean, so my expectations aren't to be exceeding that. So I'm just curiosity. I'm interested in all of them.
Well, there you go, Spencer.
You know what game I thought? You know what game I thought you were gonna mention?
Don't tell me. That means you can tell me.
Oh, you want me to tell you?
Since you did it before.
Take a stab at it. What did you think?
What game? Well, I didn't, but now that I'm thinking, what game did you think I was going to tell you? And the concept was lesser known RPGs that you should play. Fantasy Star Zero.
That I might be interested in. Fantasy Star Zero?
Yeah.
I'd play the shit out of that. Is it good? Do you know anything about it?
People like it, but it's not like the first game.
Okay. Is it like a remake or purely a new experience?
It's a new experience. I don't know. Like that's why I was hesitant to recommend it to you. I think I've tried a little bit of it.
Okay. I thought you were gonna mention Contact.
Really?
Yeah. You familiar with that game?
I've seen it. I think I started it and then kind of dropped it. Let's see if they even list it here. If not, we can add it to their 115.
Super bizarre ass game.
They don't have it here. So there are more games, more RPGs on the DS than 115. Is Contact the one where he plays like that girl on the island?
Not a girl. You're a boy, and you're on like a spaceship.
I don't know. I know Infinite Space. It's another space-based RPG.
Yeah, it's weird. It was released by Atlas, and when it came out, it was constantly compared to Earthbound. It was one of the early like it's Earthbound-like games, but it is very interesting. It's like you play as this boy. It has been so long since I played it, but you get like abducted, and then you get placed on like islands and places, and you're like just dungeon crawling basically. And the combat is like real time, but it's still turn based. It's almost like a CRPG, like a Baldur's Gate, but nah, it's weird. It's hard to explain. But I thought because of if all the comparisons to Earthbound, you would have mentioned that one. Because people would actually compare that one to it.
Interesting.
But there's a ton of weird RPGs on the DS. But they're all I'm interested in all of them, man. Good
Excellent.
stuff.
Yeah, try them out. Let me know what you think. If I should try some of them too, maybe we could do a future archive.
Ooh.
The viewers should let us know what lesser known DS RPG do you recommend or are you interested in, and which of these three would you try? And which would you like to see Spencer at least archive, if not me? Cool. Well, that is the first Majora T Cast revived. We gave it a Phoenix down. It's back on the ground. We're running. Episode's uploading. I'm editing it as I'm listening to myself speak.
Hell yeah. Did you say there was like a general section?
Yeah.
Or are you skipping that?
This is it.
Oh, this is it. Okay.
You can just talk shit now.
Did you play a lot of RPGs on the GBA?
A lot?
Or just did you game on the GBA to any great extent?
I played like Pokemons on the GBA, but I think the DS was more of like a thing for me because of the backlight.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
How about you?
I played on both a lot. Um, the the GBA had a game called Summon Night, and it's fantastic. It's really a cool game. It's an RPG, but you only play as yourself, and the combat is an action RPG, but it's also a side scroller. Like the
Hmm.
combat is side scrolling, and it's just a sword. Like you build your own weapon and then fight people in a side scrolling environment. It's really fascinating. It's also one of the most bizarre series ever because the first game is that, and then the most recent game was Summon Night 6 that was on the PS4 is a tactics visual novel, and it's like the worst game I've ever played. Like it's
Wow.
got like the English dub is so bad it's laughable. Like it's horrible, and I was so confused playing it because I played the first one and then went automatically to six.
Well, you saw my coworker lent me his DS, so I now have a way to boot up that GBA EverDrive cart.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sick.
When you're saying knight, are you saying it like the knight or like a knight in shining armor?
I think it was spelled night as in nighttime, but it
Okay.
implied that it's the night, but it like an actual night. But let me summon night. Yeah, it's spelled like
With the
nighttime.
N, not a K. Okay.
Yeah, really bizarre that it went that direction. I don't even know when in the series it decided to do that, but
Hmm.
unfortunate. First one's really good though. No,
Nice.
GBA had a lot of good RPGs, a lot of good games on the GBA, just in general. Really
Yeah.
fun console.
Well, that was my Super Nintendo because of the Super Nintendo ports. It was my Donkey Kong Country and Link to the Past machine.
Oh, nice. That's so cool. Like back when you could play those on the go, that was groundbreaking. It's like a portable Super Nintendo that can't exist.
And yeah, and it did. And imagine never owning a Super Nintendo or experiencing Super Nintendo games up to that point. It was
Yeah.
magical. Like, I
Oh yeah.
don't rate Link to the Past that highly, but I remember playing it that way and being wowed in the basements of the freaking castle and just, petrified by these like rats and taking damage from them. I think I died a couple times because especially because of the
Yeah.
light, you can't really see it that well on the backlight or the
I'm
GBA.
sure.
So that
See,
added to it.
I only ever had the flip one. I never had the this guy, whatever he
Oh,
was.
the SP. You had the GBA SP.
Yeah, the SP. So I never knew that. I had played the other one, so I knew that it didn't have a backlight, but I don't know the struggles of it because I never really had one.
Yeah, I never owned the really cool ones, so I don't know. My parents were a bit older, so I don't think they understood, and I don't think I was very good at advocating for like what I wanted and stuff. But also,
Yeah,
it's like, why am I gonna ask for a Game Boy Advance when you have a perfectly good one? So it's like
yeah,
I didn't really feel in a position to ask for it too. If I could like put myself back in the shoes.
I feel you. But yeah, that's where I played that. I played Golden Sun, another phenomenal game on the GBA. Man, that game looks beautiful.
There's
Holy
one
shit.
on the DS here too. I didn't read about it, but
Yeah, yeah. I didn't play that one because I never finished the second Golden Sun, and I felt like I would have to have done that. Probably don't, but at this point, I'd probably want to play through them again anyway, just 'cause it's been so long.
that's probably the classic one anyway. It's like the GBA ones, not the DS.
That's the ones I always hear about. I know I rarely hear about the DS one.
There are a couple like not rated games on the DS, RPGs especially, like the Lunar game. Like I know Lunar is a big series,
Oh,
but that DS
the
one
worst
is
one, right?
it's the worst. It like taxes your health for walking.
God, who did that?
I don't get
Who
it.
did that?
It's that or your mana, but it's so dumb. I tried it and was like, what? Why? Why would you do
what
this?
have you done?
Yeah. That and then there is a Valkyrie profile. I don't, I know Terry, that's your series, but I think that one's like not even comparable to the PS1 and PS2 game.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Plume
Covenant of the
something?
Plume.
Covenant of the Plume. Yeah. Yeah. And then the DS had I think we both like this game, but we have no means to talk about it. Is Rocket Knight?
Rocket Slime.
Rocket Slime?
Yeah. We
What
could
a great
we could
game.
do that. It wouldn't
I'd
be
be
much. It would be a short episode.
I would be fucking down. I do remember with that game though, the like being annoyed by the tanks at the end, like the
Mhm.
tank stuff. It was like a fun thing at first, and then it just kind of got boring, if
Yeah.
I remember correctly.
No, that sounds
But
about
what
right.
still what a freaking fun
That's
game.
not the point. The point is the
Yeah.
humor. It's just how like every slime has a dumb name, like Sir
Yeah,
Goomington or like Slimes a lot. Like I love it.
yeah, and back then I wasn't as like indoctrinated in Dragon Quest. Like I'd only played a couple when I played that game. I don't even know why. Honestly, I picked it up. Like why would I have picked that game up? Just because I'd only played eight and maybe a little four.
It's that dumb looking slime on the cover.
Yeah.
He's just like I didn't get launched off into a friggin' tank. Oh, the platypunks, like this idea of the slime platypunk rivalry. Like where else do you get to like, do that?
Yes. That was so much fun. What a
Yeah,
great game.
a couple rocket slimers here. Hey, I wanted to talk to you about like the gym and working out.
Oh, sure. I don't ever get talked about with this, so that's kind of interesting.
Recently, I've just been on a kick. I mean, even when I think going to Arizona and staying with you kind of helped me kickstart like my gym journey. And I have the summer off, so I've really just been focusing on like my physical health,
Mm.
and I've been going like 4 or 5 times a week, and I've just been
Wow.
getting shredded, man. I alternate, legs, arms, abs. But recently I've
Right.
been watching a couple Arnold Schwarzenegger documentaries about like the
Sure.
bodybuilding era and then like a couple like boxing shows, and they really just get me like psyched up to just
Hmm.
go work out and just like be fit. I was
Oh yeah.
wondering, do you feel there are like you have motivators that help like you want to stay active and that like you kind of use to like push yourself to like I don't know, achieve your physical well-being or something?
Well, as you know, I'm a huge wrestling fan. I like the late '90s, early 2000s wrestling, and the dudes are just beyond jacked. I mean, most of them, especially the ones that are beyond jacked, are on steroids.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm not even opposed to steroids per se. Um, I would never really take them personally, because I think I'm just too stupid and uneducated, and I would end up hurting myself. But I mean, if you're a responsible adult and you know how to handle that kind of stuff, I think there is a safe way to take them and hit the goals that you want. So I don't really judge if people use them. But regardless, their bodies are so cool and I'm like so fascinated by it. And it's like, wow, they're like all the, you know, they have muscles like they're curvy and everything and they look really cool. Um, so I'm hooked on that, and if I'm ever not interested in gaining muscle, I'm just gonna be watching wrestling the next day, and then I'll find it.
That's good. You have sort of like a system of like that you would never get tired of. Because I know a thing for a lot of people is like gym fatigue. Even I go through phases of it. I think recently I haven't because I've had the time off and
Hmm.
whatnot. But I think because you're watching wrestling so frequently, it's kind of a routine for you. Versus for me, I guess I could binge watch all the Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone movies, and
Yeah,
I'm debating it, but I, I don't
it's a good
necessarily
time.
have that mainstay.
Well, I think once you've done it enough, it like they say like it takes like 2 weeks or 3 weeks to build a habit or whatever the phrase is. I don't even know what the time is, and I don't know if there's any science behind it, but as when you start building up a habit and you have like a log, and you're like, okay, last week I bench pressed 150 pounds or 100 pounds. It doesn't matter, whatever the number is, 100 pounds for X amount of reps. Now I want to hit more than that. And as you keep doing that over and over again, eventually you're like, it's just normal. It's just like, okay, I did, 100 that week. Now I did 110. This week I think I can hit 120. Now it becomes less of an obligation and more of a personal challenge. And once it hits that part, and I don't know how long it takes, but once it will hit that, and once it hits that part, it's not even a pain to go to the gym. You're actually looking forward to it. And there's days, you'll always have days where you're like, fuck, can I just like skip the gym today and like eat Oreos for breakfast or something? I mean, that shit always happens. But in general, like even when I do that and I miss out, and like I have some cool excuse where I can't go to the gym, so I'm like, literally like the next day or even sometimes later in the day, I'm like fuck, I just set my training back, and now I'm not going to be able to hit that number like I wanted to, and I get down on myself if I don't go to the gym. So it's just a matter of putting yourself in the right mindset, and eventually you will get to a point where it isn't work, it's a passion.
And if that ever happens, one thing I learned because I used to be a swimmer when I was in grade school, and through my camp, the guy who's like a professional coach, and he was jacked. I mean, this guy might as well have been a bodybuilder too. But he said you could do core workouts every day. You know how like you got to rest your arms or your legs. You can always work your core muscles. Why, I'm not really sure, but we would have core exercises. You know, it would be a 2 week rigorous thing. Part of the day would always be core exercises. So if you just bust out a mat and you spend some of the time stretching and some of the time doing leg lifts, ab rolls, twists, like sit ups. You can do standing twists, even like statics. I know work some of your like lower back and stuff, like the planks. You could do like streamlines where you kind of raise off the body, you rotate like on your sides, but you do it like on the ground. It's a good home workout in case you miss the gym. So like even today, I didn't go out, the weather sucks, but I had 40 minutes on the stopwatch. And I think that's another thing that helps me too. The second I like start stretching, I set my my stopwatch, and then I stop it when I leave the gym, because I'm always trying to hit, like, if possible, 45 minutes minimum between everything, like stretching, working out.
Well, a couple things on that. So core, you have to be careful. You have to understand like what your goals are. Core is great for athletes. It's really useful. For bodybuilding, you have to be a little more careful with that, because if you get ironically, like people on the outside of it think that to get abs, like visible abs, you have to do like a bunch of crunches. They're like, oh, you got to be doing sit-ups all the time. And it's actually not that at all. It's all diet. Like getting visible abs is what you eat, and trying to get your body fat down to probably 15 to 12% body fat, and you should start seeing all of them. But it depends on your body type. You could never see it or whatever. But
yeah,
if you work out your abs too much, you actually lose a V taper, which is the broad shoulder is supposed to be triangular, like upside down triangle down. If you end up bulking your abs too much, that V taper goes away, because your abs are literally like your obliques, and your obliques are literally like puffing out, so they actually ruin the V taper. So you have to be careful with that. Now, if you're a certain size, that won't matter as much, but you just have to be cautious of that. Now, as for athletes and for general lifting health, it's generally good to have a certain level of core strength. So just for strength alone, it's worth it to do at least like a day of them. But to do them every day, I would be cautious.
Oh no, listen, I'm not doubling up like doing arms in the morning, abs at night, ab day, leg ab.
But you could.
It is,
you could.
You
If
can.
it depends, if that's your goal, if your goal is to be like a crazy good athlete, there's nothing better than to have a strong core. That's literally
Right.
like gonna be everything.
Yeah.
I have no sports. I
Yeah.
don't do any
Yeah.
sports. Mine is purely aesthetics, so I have to be careful with that one.
That makes sense.
Um, the second piece you said, shit. You said abs. You do core, and then fuck. What was the next thing you
Oh, the
said?
stretching.
45 minutes minimum.
Mm.
Um, yeah. The time element makes sense, but if you can bust out what you need to do quickly, I don't think there's really anything wrong with that.
Hmm.
I mean, if you can. I found that I take like usually an hour or so to do a complete cycle. But honestly, a lot of that is me trying to figure out what YouTube video I should play next on my phone.
Yeah.
Like
I
a
count
lot
the
of it, like
downtime. That counts for me.
right, and like a lot of it is like, I do my eight reps of whatever, and then I'm like waiting there, and I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of sick of this video. I'm gonna go find something else, and I'm like flipping through. I'm like, oh, I should probably start working out again, but I'm not going to. And then I'm flipping through, and I
Yeah.
go this. And I've honestly noticed that if like on the days where I accidentally forget my headphones, like I can bust out the same workout
In
in like
20
35
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
We
pretty
um
crazy.
we had to come back for the landlord because he was coming to look at something, but we still wanted to get our gym time in before, so we literally had like 25 minutes. I was like, all right, I'll meet you back at noon in the lobby, and I had a crazy arm workout, and
Oh yeah.
I barely stretched. I did like okay, we're good, and I
Yeah.
had four unique exercises, 3 sets of each, and I
Oh
came
yeah.
out of there my chest bumping, and like unfortunately like there was no cool down, which I
Yeah.
could have used, but in 20 minutes I did have a power workout, so I know that like I could get that too.
And there is benefits to that, right? Because when you have your heart rate up, that's when you're burning the most fat. So there is you probably did more fat burning in that exercise in that day than you would in a normal, a normal thing that you do.
But your heart rate has to come back down at a level rate because it's at there's you're not like one thing I learned doing track was like the one thing you don't do after you finish a race is sit down
Hmm.
because you will get dizzy, you'll throw up, it's
Yeah.
just it's too much.
Yeah.
So when like my heart rate's that much up, I like to at least just kind of cool down a little bit.
Sure.
And then when I'm on the treadmill, I try and keep my hands on the heart rate monitor just to see where I'm at, and then my cool down is either get my heart rate below 120 or just walk until like I'm at like the 15-minute mark or something, whichever comes first. Not for 15 minutes straight after the workout, but I usually do like 10 minutes or a mile on the treadmill.
10 minutes is good. Yeah. Um, and one thing I've been doing recently that I've gotten some pretty good results from. We'll see how it goes, but I'll start bulking again in probably probably late August, early September,
Hmm.
and that'll be interesting to see. But I've been doing I call it 3 by 8 plus is what I call it. So I do 3 sets of 8, and then I do my last set straight to failure.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then I don't count the last set though.
Okay.
So you do so you're doing curls, right? 3 sets of 8 curls. And actually let's not do curls because that one's kind of dangerous. But let's do lat pull downs. So you
Sure.
3 sets of lat pull downs of 8 at 100 pounds, let's just say that. And then your last set, you literally just do it that same weight to failure. And then the next time you do lat pull downs, you try to do 105 for 3 sets. And then your last set will be 105 to failure.
The third set.
The fourth set.
Oh, so you do 4 sets of these. Okay.
4 sets total, but the first 3 are sets of 8. The fourth one is just as many as you can do like a monster.
I was
and
reading
then that's it.
that because I was reading about the Smith machine and the squats, and they were suggesting different like set numbers based on what you're looking for. It was like 8, 10, and 12 to 15, and then I think the 8 was for bulk, and then like the 12 to 15 was for endurance.
Yes. So the higher reps you do, it's more for endurance and more for tone. Typically, they say. And then the lower rep is for bulk. And if you want to go even lower than that, you can go down to like 5 or 4 reps. That's purely for strength.
Mm-hmm.
That's just to get the weight, like higher and higher weight. So that do
Gotcha.
strength training, which I'm not interested in. I have.
Yeah, but that's why people will go like bench press, like just put like 245s on each end, and then just. Okay.
Yes. And you know what? More power to you.
Yeah,
If that's what you want to do, yeah, go for it. If you literally just want to have higher numbers, hey, I play RPGs, I get it. That's cool. I'm not in it for that. But you know, there's a way to lift for each, you know, body type you want, or whatever your goal is. So more power to you. Athletes should probably do 12 to 15. Why not? You know, like get toned and get endurance. Go for it.
Right. But also, you know, it's probably good to switch it up too for both ends. You know, people that are building muscle to also gain some of that endurance. But I guess it depends. Like, do you want to be like a male sculptor, or do you want to just, you know, be an athlete? So.
Yeah, 100%. That's why it's so fun. It's like you can create a goal for yourself, and that's one of the cool things I like about weight training and whatever is. You honestly, as strange as it seems, you're only competing with yourself. And that's like, if anybody on here has any interest in it and they're nervous about it or they're new to it, you can go to the gym and yes, there's people that are jacked, and there's people that are fat, and there's people that are ugly and whatever. And they're all at completely different levels. Nobody knows what your journey was to get there. Nobody knows that you have a hurt arm. Nobody knows that you have a heart condition, and so you can only do so much. Anybody that with any experience in the gym does not care how much you're lifting. And if they do, they're pieces of shit, and they're probably sad, depressed human beings. So just go and do what you want to do and try to find your way of improving every time. And that's the best.
There's a whole area for that too of the gym, you know, and there's a 30-minute express area, you know, where
dude.
Technically I don't really use it that way, but you know, the whole point is just go and get a, you know, chill workout. I see a lot of people I see some kids there. It's like free for kids for summer. They're just like literally looking at their phones, lifting their legs, you know. Like playing freaking Clash for Clans or whatever.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think if you have nothing going on, like, no, you're not like, because one thing, the whole reason I'm definitely back in there is because I'm so used to having like athleticism just thrown in my face, you know, but whether being part of a team or being in an outdoorsy area. But when I came back home and I had like apartment living and then like the real career and job and everything, I lost that. I didn't feel it the same way. And this is like an easy way to get that back. Even just the simple $10 Planet Fitness, you know?
Oh yeah. That's all you need.
And I've been working it in new ways that I haven't done before. So
there's literally like no barrier to entry. It's like $10 a month, and you can go work out as much as you want. You could freaking live there if you wanted. They have like a lot of them are 24/7, and you can just like shower there if you want to. Like it's pretty awesome, really. It's a great program.
They have the massage chairs. You don't really need the black card to get into. So
really, you snuck in?
You don't. Well, I have it, but it's just there's nobody like monitoring your. Oh, can you show your black card?
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I highly encourage it. There's been nothing in my life, no hobby that has been more fulfilling than going to the gym. And I play video games, a lot of them.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for sharing. Okay, well, that's going to conclude Majora T Cast Revived. We'll be back from the dead again. Spencer, tell the viewers where to find you.
I'm over at RPG Archive. I'm sure the link will be here or there. And then you can check us both out on the Button Mappers, which I don't know. I'm guessing you're releasing this pretty quickly here.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll edit it because tonight it's a little late, but maybe I'll just schedule it for tomorrow or Tuesday night.
Okay, well, next month, the current month we're on in Button Mappers is Capcom month. I think we're going to be releasing. I don't remember what the next video is, but there will be videos. And then the next month will be Zombie month. So a lot of spooks and scares then.
I'm playing one that you might appreciate. I'll just say that.
Really?
I think you will.
Zombies Ate My Neighbors?
No.
Okay.
I saw that though. That's like a retro one.
Yeah.
But no, I turned that up. I guess you'll find out next month.
Okay, I'll find out next month, along with all the viewers.
That's right. We'll see you there. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have yourselves a great night.